Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tony's not here today. You know what that means.
And neither is his best friend, Pablo. That guy.
Ooh, hold my coat. Hold a sixth grader's line on a playground to the popular kid getting in his face.
Where's Pablo? He's probably at a Ted Lasso watch party today, hanging out with his boy. He's got all the celebrity friends.
The question is, where's Tony? I'm sure he's at a beach somewhere. Beach boy. Welcome to PTI. Tony couldn't even tough it out till Thursday, load management. So I am joined happily by our great friend, Mr. Frank Isola.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Frank skipped the beach, got that tie on and everything. Let's start with the Warriors beating the Lakers in San Francisco last night to stay alive in that series. Golden State got 27 points from Stephen Curry, 25 from Andrew Wiggins, and 20 again from Draymond Green in the win. And the Lakers didn't just lose the game, they lost Anthony Davis midway through the fourth quarter with some sort of head injury. Frank, how much did this series change last night?
You know, I don't really think it did, as long as Anthony Davis is going to be okay. And I'll tell you what, Kevon Looney's done a lot of damage. He gave the black guy to Sabonis, and now he got Anthony Davis on the side of the head. He had to leave the game. But from all indications, it looks like, and we're hoping that Anthony Davis is going to be okay. And remember, Lakers are 5-0 at home this postseason. And LeBron's teams, when they take a 3-1 series lead, 17-0. They've won 17 playoff series. So I still have a lot of confidence in the Lakers. But you mentioned something about the Warriors, and it's Draymond Green. Second time this playoffs, he's gone for at least 20 points. He did it against Sacramento. Yeah. Game 5, they win. He did it last night in a game they had to have. They win. I'm not saying that Draymond Green has to score between 20 and 30. He just has to be more aggressive, attacking the basket. Mike, before that Game 5 against Sacramento, he hadn't scored 20 points in a game since Christmas Day of 2019. So that energy that he plays with, that quickens the pace. Draymond Green needs to continue to play like that if the Warriors, a terrible road team all year long, goes on the road and wins a game tomorrow night in L.A.
Well, he's got to play that specifically, and I know this is what you're talking about, offensively.
Yes.
He's got to make people at least guard him.
That's
I mean, you can't just have people looking at Draymond Green with a half-hearted hand in the air. You can't have that, and they need that now. I mean, they didn't need Draymond Green to score 20 or score at all for years, but they need it now. I don't know to answer the original question, Frank, did anything change for me last night if Anthony Davis is going to play and be himself? Because, look, let's say what's really on people's minds. When he was woozy and up on the bench and somebody on the staff is grabbing his jersey from behind to essentially make sure he doesn't fall while walking into the tunnel, and it's a long walk, as you know, from that bench back to the locker room in San Francisco at Chase Center, you're thinking, oh, my God, I hope Anthony Davis doesn't have a concussion.
You're right.
I hope that he doesn't have to go into concussion protocol. And so if that's not the case, good, that he doesn't have to go in. I don't know that anything changed. These teams are not good enough to win 3 straight games. They're just not. You know, they're good enough to maybe to win a second straight game, but they go back and forth, and the adjustments allow for that, if not outright cause it. But, if we're going to mention names, I'm looking for Klay Thompson in Game 6 because he's done it so many times, and we haven't seen the real Klay very much. They got Jordan Poole going for a minute. They could use him, too. But, man, I mean, Game 6 between these two, Game 6 between LeBron and Steph Curry, it's just a wow. We ought to savor that, Frank. We don't know if we're ever going to get this again. We ought to savor it.
Mike, 11 road wins Golden State had. And then they go on the road against Sacramento. They win Game 5. Of course, they won the Game 7 when Steph plays out of his mind. Here they are again, needing to win a road game. And you mentioned Klay Thompson, and so much has been talked about with Klay Thompson. Growing up in L.A., his dad, Michael Thompson, playing for the Lakers. He was a Laker fan. He needs a Klay Thompson kind of game. I'm not saying 40, but how about between 25 and 30? Do you know after scoring 30 points in Game 2, he has combined to score 34 points in the next 3 games? It's not good enough. He was 3 for 12 last night. That's right.
They need the All-Pro. Absolutely.
That's right. All right, let's move to the East, where the Knicks also extended their series with the Heat to a Game 6. Jalen Brunson put up 38 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists for New York. And how about this one? He played all 48 minutes. Mike, what are your thoughts on Jalen Brunson's performance and what it means for the Knicks as they head back to Miami?
You know my thoughts on Chicago's own Jalen Brunson. You know how much I love this kid. You know what, Frank? I'm gonna go straight to big picture. Because he's playing that game last night. He's had so many great games in the playoffs and so many great games to drag the Knicks up the standings to get to the 5th seed. I think he's the most consequential Knicks player. Not the best, but the most consequential, the most important building block that the New York Knicks have had since Patrick Ewing.
I think you're
and
right.
I am not dissing Carmelo Anthony, who I love, and who was going to go down as a greater player because of the scoring and all the things Carmelo Anthony did, and that's fine. But in terms of team building and getting the New York Knicks from irrelevant to relevant in the postseason.
Yeah.
Come on now. I know you like Brunson. I love Brunson. I don't know that the Knicks can go down to Miami and win. I don't know that they can. But I think when they got Brunson on the floor, they have an intelligent leader who knows how to get them close in striking distance if everybody else will follow.
You know, it's funny. You're 100% right. And the Knicks are up 19 in the third quarter. All of a sudden, it's a 2-point game, and the Knicks look like they're falling apart. What's the one steady hand out there? It's Jalen Brunson. And this happened to me last night. It's only happened about maybe 50 times this season. When I watch Jalen Brunson play, and I think, what must Luka Doncic be thinking? And what were the Dallas Mavericks thinking when the guy in his final season in Dallas went to them twice, and they could have had him for $55 million? Think about the money that some of these guys make in the NBA. He has played as well as anybody in the playoffs. Steph Curry, what was it, about 7 years ago, had the best contract, in maybe in NBA history. He was making about $47 million over like 4 or 5 years. They could have had Jalen Brunson for $55 million, Mike, with Luka Doncic. And you're 100% right. He changed so much about the Knicks. He changes the culture. He adds a winning player to that team. Now, if you're a free agent or you're a guy that wants to negotiate away to another team,
play with
why
him.
wouldn't you want to play with him?
Play with him.
Right?
Unselfish, incredible basketball IQ. Another one of the second-generation pro players. His dad, who you and I know well, of course, for a lot of years, played for a few teams, including the Knicks and Bulls. It's amazing what he can do, particularly with his team trailing or his team in tough positions. And I realize they got to have Julius Randle. They got to have a lot of stuff going. And Jimmy Butler probably won't be under 20 or 25 points again in another playoff game, particularly going back there. But that series has become compelling. The Knicks have become compelling.
Yeah.
And I think it's largely because of their playmaker, point guard, and leader, Jalen Brunson.
And how about the fact that Jalen Brunson played 48, Quentin Grimes played 48?
48.
So all you people killing Tom that doesn't play young players, Brunson's 26 and Quentin Grimes is 23. One thing, though, about Miami, let's just say this. They missed a lot of open shots. They were 13 of 43
they did.
on
That's
three-pointers, and a lot of them were open. They just weren't falling.
It is so Tibbsian. Two people you associate with 48 minutes. Wilt and Tibbs for very different reasons. And now to the Stanley Cup playoffs, where both Canadian teams won last night. The Maple Leafs staved off elimination by beating the Panthers 2-1 in that game 4. And in Edmonton, the Oilers even their series with the Golden Knights at 2. Vegas's Alex Pietrangelo, got a 5-minute major, a game misconduct, and a hearing with the NHL for his late slash to the hands of Oilers star Leon Draisaitl. Thuggery. Frank, where do you want to start?
Yeah, well, you said it. Pietrangelo has got to go. He's got to be suspended for a game. This is a guy, 3-time All-Star, big money player for Vegas, has never been suspended before. He's a big-time player for them. He averages 24 minutes of ice time thus far in the playoffs, but he's got to go. Now, I get it. Leon Draisaitl talks a lot. And in a game like that, the game is over. He's about to get an empty netter, and you're thinking, this guy's already got 13 goals. You're not going to get 14 on me. But he waited a beat and then whacked him across the wrist. You cannot have that if you're the NHL. I understand it's a physical sport. I know guys get injured on clean hits. That is a one-game suspension, and that really could be something that shifts the series because he's, that's an important player for this team.
Look, the NHL took a necessary step a while ago. And they said the people who instigate these things, these incidents in the last 5 minutes of a game, they get suspended. So Darnell Nurse, who did that, gets suspended, but the ultimate instigator doesn't. Pietrangelo, he doesn't get suspended. You got to suspend him. I mean, Draisaitl is one of your 5 biggest stars in the Stanley Cup playoffs so far. You can make the case he's one of the 3 biggest. And so, Frank, that was the slash. What P.K. Subban post-game, he just said it wasn't a hockey play.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with hockey. That play is like a wood chop.
Yeah.
If you're the league, man up, own up, stand up before a microphone and say, you are done. You're gone for at least a game.
Yeah.
And if Draisaitl had been injured, and you can get injured, you can break a wrist, you can fracture somebody's hand, then he should go away for as long as the victim. But that doesn't seem to be the case.
Pietrangelo had his hearing today, so the league will still chime in at some point. I think he's going to get suspended. I think Connor McDavid weighing in, like you mentioned, I think that's pretty compelling. And remember, too, Cale Makar of the Colorado Avalanche, probably the best defenseman in the NHL, he was suspended one game against the Seattle Kraken for a late hit. So there is a precedent there. There's going to be I think there's going to be a one-game suspension.
Let's take a break. But coming up, Frank and I will make our picks for tonight's Game 6 between the Celtics and the Sixers.
Also tonight, in the desert, will the Suns push the Nuggets to a Game 7?
I hope so. Are you old enough to remember Dave Zinkoff? You old enough to remember him?
Of course.
The great public address announcer in Philadelphia. Oh, my God. Time to clean Frank's clock and toss up. What's first?
Toss up who you got in tonight's Game 6, the Celtics or the Sixers?
This is really hard for me, Frank. At the beginning of the year, maybe the only thing I got right, perhaps, is I had the Sixers go into the conference finals, and they would achieve that by winning tonight. But I find these Celtics are so easy to root for, just because I love Tatum and Brown to start with. And even, all the role players, Brogdon and Smart, they're just so likable to me. I like rooting for the Celtics. But I haven't known any of them for 50. That would be 50 years. And so this is a total bias pick. I'm rooting for my friend Glenn Doc Rivers of Chicago, Illinois. I'm rooting for the Sixers, and I love Embiid as well. I find both these teams have likable characters and people you want to advance in the playoffs. Only one of them ultimately can advance. I'm picking the Sixers. Do I have a reason to pick them? They're at home. They got the MVP, and they got Tyrese Maxey, who I believe is like the unsung player of this series.
Yeah. Last year, Celtics in a similar situation needed to win a Game 6 on the road in Milwaukee in the second round. What happened? Jason Tatum went off for 46. Is he going to go off for 46 tonight? No, but he's capable of having a big game. Plus, Robert Williams may start, and Robert Williams and Al Horford together in that lineup, that's their best lineup.
Big
defensively
difference.
And offensively. But you mentioned Doc, and he's having a great series where he won a game without Joel Embiid, and I like the fact he brought Embiid back early. We talked about it last week. And I'll tell you this, because we know Joe Mazzulla, the head coach of Boston, is getting destroyed up in Boston right now for what's going on. Think about this, Mike. Last year on their coaching staff, they had Ime Udoka, you had Will Hardy, and you had Damon Stoudemire. All three of those guys left and got head coaching jobs. They didn't really replace them with anybody. I think the Celtics, and this is not a knock on their coaching staff, they need an experienced ex-head coach on that staff. He needs like a Yoda sitting next to him. That's what he needs.
It's a good point. But, Frank, before we move on to the next one, it's those wins in Miami and in Milwaukee that lead me to think, the Celtics may just steal another one on the road. This is what they don't really give it everything.
You're right.
Until they're, the shoulders against the mat for a 2 count.
Yeah.
What's next?
Toss-up more likely to happen tonight, the Nuggets advance or the Suns stay alive?
Man, this series is tough, too. I mean, I guess I got a bias given where I'm sitting out here at, second home. I think that a little thing can throw the balance of this series. And it's maybe a little thing that Jamal Murray has some sort of bug. And he's listed as questionable, but I'm told he's going to play. And so, but if he is just like a C+, Jamal Murray has got to go run in their locker room to get tissues or bathroom break or whatever, it's going to be enough. Anything can tip this series. DeAndre Ayton out, not playing. I think that's a good thing. There'll be less pouting and there'll be less worrying about what, DeAndre Ayton's supposed to be doing. And I just think that Kevin Durant, we're still waiting for one of those 48-point games from Kevin Durant. I think that comes tonight. I think the Suns win an epic Game 6.
I think it's going to be the Nuggets, and I think Nikola Jokic, all we heard for about the last 2 months of the season was why he shouldn't be the MVP. Yet no one's talking about how great he's been in the playoffs. The guy has been absolutely phenomenal. One thing about the Phoenix Suns, in the 2 games that they've won, Games 3 and 4, Devin Booker and Kevin Durant combined for 86 points. The next game, they combined for 72. They need to combine for over 70
80.
points. But you
80.
might be right. It might be 80.
80.
And like you mentioned, DeAndre Ayton is out. Chris Paul is out. So who's going to provide that scoring? If I'm Michael Malone, I keep doing what I was doing. Make other guys try to make shots. But they can't win unless those guys have big scoring games.
Okogie and Shamet and T.J. Warren. Come on. Those guys are big-time pros.
Yep.
It's like you're at home tonight. You're going to get eliminated. Do this. Do this so you don't have to deal with Ayton's pouting.
Can't blame him if he doesn't play.
And my anger. That's it. Let's take one last break, but still to come. The Detroit Lions reportedly get a showcase that's very unusual for them.
And the Patriots are bringing Tom Brady back.
Yeah.
Sort of. We'll explain. So you got the Suns winning tonight.
Yes, I got this going 7. Time to get happy, people. Happy 35th birthday, Brad Marchand. At least Marchand has something to celebrate today. After the Bruins' historic season flamed out in the first round against the Panthers, the Bruins set records for the most wins and points in the history of the NHL regular season before falling to the Panthers in overtime of Game 7. Marchand is known for his great skill, but also for being a nuisance and a menace who has licked the faces of opponents. So gross. The left winger is under contract through 2025, but says he cannot imagine playing without teammates Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci, both of whom could retire. If Bergeron does hang it up, Marchand is likely to be the next captain of the Bruins.
Yeah, it's been such a brutal spring up in Boston. You think about the Bruins. Marchand had a chance to have a walk-off series winner at the end of Game 5 against Florida. They're up 3-1 in the series.
Yeah.
He doesn't convert the breakaway. They lose in overtime. They go on the road, they lose, and then they lose Game 7 at home in overtime. What a brutal way to end your season.
A lot of pressure on the C's tonight in Boston. Right. Happy anniversary to Julius the Dr. Irving.
Pretty good.
On this day 43 years ago, the Doc performed his iconic dipsy-do scoop move against the Lakers in Game 4 of the finals. Doc sailed in from the right side, hung in the air, first raising the ball around Mark Landsberger, then pulling it down and spinning in a bank reverse around Kareem. A rookie named Irvin Johnson was on the court for the Lakers in that game and called it the greatest shot he's ever seen, adding, quote, "I thought, what should we do? Should we take the ball out of bounds or should we ask him to do it again?"
Man.
Close quote. Great line. The Sixers went on to win that game to tie the series at 2 apiece, but the Lakers, with Magic authoring the greatest game ever in the history of the game, would finish Philly in 6.
Yeah, you said it, iconic. Those of us who grew up in New York, we still see Dr. J with that 32 and the nets across the chest. You mentioned the Magic game, which happened a few days later, the 42 points and 15 rebounds playing center.
Yep.
I still say 14 months earlier, he won the national championship in one of the most important college games ever played. 14 months later, he does that. And we go crazy over rookies who have, that average 20 points and their teams win 15 games.
That's why he's on the Mount Rushmore, people. Russell and Magic in addition to all the new stuff. Happy trails to the mystery surrounding the matchup of the NFL opener. It's a mystery. The NFL schedule gets released later tonight to much fanfare, but multiple reports have the Super Bowl champ Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Detroit Lions in the season opener Thursday, September 7th. Last season, the traditionally lowly Lions weren't even scheduled for any primetime games until they got flexed into the regular season finale, where they finished off the Cheeseheads. Dan Campbell's team didn't make the playoffs, but did win 8 of its final 10 to finish at 9-8. Patrick Mahomes has won 16 straight regular season games against NFC opponents. So if the Lions were to win this opener, it might feel like a Super Bowl win for a franchise that hasn't won a playoff game since 1991.
I love it. Good for the Lions. It's good to see them in a national game. And if you're going to play Kansas City on the road, you might as well do it early. They get their rings, you get the banner. They might be a little caught up. And by the way, Aaron Rodgers' first game with the Jets, September 11th against Buffalo.
This schedule release show, the ultimate hype. We've known who they're going to play since New Year's Day. Stop it. We're running out of show. Let's go to the big finish. The Patriots plan to bring back Tom Brady to honor him at home this season in the opener. Does that make sense?
Of course it does. You know what's unfortunately, a quarterback's going to get hurt early next season, and everyone's going to say, reach out to Tom Brady.
He's not
See if he'll come. I'm just telling you what's going to happen. The Orioles took 2 out of 3 from the Rays. Are you impressed?
O's have won 8 of their last 9 series, third best record in the MLB. Yes. LeBron made the 3rd All-NBA team after playing just 55 games. You okay with that?
You voted for him. I didn't. We're not ranking the
13.
best players. I know that he's one of the best 15 players. He missed 27 games, Mike. Curry missed 26. Why are they getting voted on these teams?
Had to.
Justin Verlander struck out 7 in 7 innings in a 2-1 win over the Reds last night. Is that a good sign?
First outing since giving up those back-to-back homers to the Tigers last week. Yes. Last one, Devils, Canes, cracking stars tonight. Who you got?
You know what? The Devils imploded in Game 4 the other night. The Canes are good. I have them winning. I have Dallas winning as well. We're out of time. Thanks for watching. I'm Frank Isola.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knucklehead. It's a puck night, but it's a ball night first and foremost. Check out NBA Countdown tonight at 7 Eastern. That's an order. And now, here's sports.
Big night for both Jokic and Embiid, advancing. Pay attention.
Can't leave Jokic off.